Well, Chris Price with Keller Williams, the Indy property source, was on today, and he is a phenomenal real estate agent. He runs a fairly big team. He has what I'd call a mega team, a lot of agents. He does a lot of volume himself. His team does a lot of volume. Because of the fantastic team that he has, they pretty much work in all of Indiana, and they work in almost every market as far as single-family homes, doubles, fourplexes, multifamily, commercial. They just do a lot, and he has a tremendous amount of knowledge. He's 20 years in the business. He is a guy that you want to listen to. We talk a lot about the new law change, the NAR lawsuit settlement, and this is one I think you'll find very entertaining. He's a great guy, fantastic real estate agent, and I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for listening. Welcome to Indy's Real Estate Gurus, your ultimate guide to the dynamic world of real estate in Indiana. And I'm Rick Ripma, your hard-working mortgage guy, and I've been in real estate and mortgages for over 24 years.
And I'm Ian Arnold, a loan officer on Rick's hard-working mortgage team, and we are both with Advisors Mortgage Group. Together, we'll empower you with expert advice, market trends, and successful stories from guru realtors and local experts.
Whether you're a homeowner, investor, or pro, join us as we navigate the thriving Indy real estate market.
Now get ready to unlock the doors of success, one episode at a time.
Welcome back, Chris. I really appreciate you coming back in. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And this is Chris Price. You're with Keller Williams, the property source. The Indy property source.
The Indy property source, yep.
Yeah, the Indy property source. Mm-hmm. I know that now. See, I didn't have that right before, so I know that now. And you've been on the show before. You're a not only a fantastic agent, but you run a mega team of real estate agents, correct?
That's right, yeah. It's kind of a business within a business, yeah.
Yeah, so you have a lot of not just the knowledge of working with a customer on a day-to-day basis, purchase, buying, selling, listing, all those kind of things, but you also help many agents on your team be successful.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's exciting to me because I like to hear what people like you, what you do, how you motivate, how you do those things. But before we get into that, let's real briefly, we won't take the same 45 minutes we took last time, just, who are you? Where, give us your background and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So I've been a couple decades in real estate now, kind of found my way into real estate right after college. Grew up here locally and went to college here locally, studied economics and finance, and again, just kind of, I'll be honest, wasn't my first choice to go into real estate, probably wasn't my parents' first choice either. But I ended up in it, and I started to really like it, and I started to apply a lot of those business management and economics type courses that I took in college, and was able to apply it to kind of running a business. So fast forward, I've been doing it for ever since then, and I've been fortunate enough to grow a team within Keller Williams.
Yeah, and not only a team, but a mega team. How many agents do you have?
We have about 8 agents, so there's about, I think, 12 of us overall. We've got a couple employees, and yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's a big team. It's not just you're being modest. It's just not a little team. It's a big team. You do big volume. You've had it for quite some time, and so you have a tremendous background. Not only that, you've done a phenomenal job in actually working with clients. You sell a lot of homes, buy a lot, you help buyers, you help sellers, you just do a phenomenal job. That's why we're so excited to have you back on, because now we're going to dig into how you do your business. Sure. Which I think is important for everybody to know. Your customers want to know that. If there's new agents, there's inexperienced agents, there may be somebody out there looking to be on a team. Sure. And, maybe they're a good fit for you, or there's new agents, people trying to figure out if they should even come into real estate, right? So let's start with the buyer or the seller. So let's go to the seller. So when you get a seller, how do you do that? Like, what is somebody calls you, they say, think about listen, what's your process?
Yeah, no, that's good. So usually a seller will call as a result of maybe having worked with us in the past, or just friends and family, or referral, or maybe even hopefully a result of our marketing coming to our website. Yeah, and we have a script that I go through over the phone, kind of like a vetting questionnaire, just to kind of feel out a little bit more about what they have and what they're looking to do, and then ultimately what we want to try to do. What I'll do is set an appointment. So I'll go out to see the home, meet with the client, start to build rapport, and I usually take pretty good notes so that going into the appointment, I'll have an idea, hopefully, of knowing what their timetable is, and then I'll basically show them the value that I bring as an agent and the value that my team brings, and try to match that with their needs. And ultimately, I'll try to sign them up as a client when we meet. But it's maybe I'm not as high pressure as most. If they're not quite ready, I will look to try to get them to commit with me. But if not, I'll stay in touch with them, and then as their timetable adjusts, I'll follow up. So once they sign up as a seller with us and agree, like, hey, you look like you're going to be a good fit with us, then the actual pre-marketing, is what we call it, steps start to take place, and all of the logistics behind getting a home ready. Sometimes there's staging and design that we will provide input on. A lot of times there's unfinished projects that we'll go over with the seller. Really, it's getting it ready for the photography, for the 3D tour, for all of the marketing shoots that take place before it goes live. We try to work pretty hard to get them to that point so that it's ready.
Okay, so if you're going to an appointment to list the house, or at least talk to them about listing their house, and what questions should a seller have for you? And I'm guessing that not only should they have them, but since you know what they are, you probably answer them without them necessarily asking the question. So how do you cover that? So as an example, do people ask, so how many homes have you sold in the area, and how long have you been a real estate agent? Do they ask questions like that?
They do. They should.
They should. Okay.
Some people do. Yeah. A lot of people will ask how long you've been in real estate. Certainly, when I first got in, I was maybe 21, and I didn't have all the gray hair that I have now. So they're maybe not as concerned about that anymore. But they still might ask. A lot of people have gotten into real estate over the past few years, and they want to make sure that there's like a track record that goes behind. So I definitely like to cover that. Even if they don't ask me, I'll tell them, sold several thousand homes, 20 years in the business, and here's why I think I could help you out too. So,
yeah. So let's say do you have any newer people on your team?
We do. Yeah.
Okay. So how does that newer person, because they can't say that, right? Because they haven't been in the business 20 years and they haven't sold thousands of homes, but how do you teach them to present to that seller and kind of communicate the same information?
Yeah, so I think it's important to know, for at least if someone's going to be working with us, that we don't just cut loose like a brand new person onto a client like as an experiment. So we typically, they'll shadow me or another experienced agent. They'll go through pretty extensive training within our company, but also within the team. And then usually they will end up working with buyers kind of right off the get-go, and in partnership with me or another agent, kind of helping them along. And then sellers typically will be after they've been in business for a little bit longer, because it can be I don't know that it's more complicated, but it's a different process than working with buyers. So then once they get to that point, to answer your question, typically I'll say for them, they'll bring a similar presentation that I will, and they'll say, if they're asked that question, they can be transparent about how long they've been in the business. But I'm affiliated with a team, and I work alongside a team that has a platform that sold thousands of homes, and my broker's got 20 years plus in the business, and so if there's something that I don't know, I have the resources to get them for you.
Yeah, I think it's maybe. I'll go back in my life, years and years ago when I was very young.
Yep.
Okay, I barely remember it, but I was a real estate agent, and the way that it's set up today with teams, I might still be a real estate agent today had I been on a team, because I didn't know. At that point, I didn't know anything, right? I was 20, 21 years old. I didn't know anything. And I had people there that would help me, but they weren't really, it wasn't like having a team and having somebody like you who knows what they're doing. I just think it's extremely important. If anybody's out there thinking about being a real estate agent or they're new to real estate, call Chris. I mean, get on a team like your team that can help them if you're a good fit, of course, all that. But I just think that is the most valuable thing, and I knew that's exactly what I would do if I was a new person. I would say, yes, I'm new, because you can't fake it, right? I'm new, but you know what I do have? I got this guy. He's been in the business for 20 years. Not only that, I've got 7 other agents that are working with his team that I can ask questions to. Plus, I'm part of Keller Williams, and we got all these people, and it's all that mentorship. Don't you think that makes a huge difference?
Yeah, it really does, because you kind of jogged my memory there. When I got into the business, I also kind of was searching for that, and it was for years, I guess, probably up until maybe the last decade or so. It was kind of like you got thrown in the fire, and it was feast or famine and all that good stuff. But teams really kind of came about. I don't know. What do you think? Like maybe the past 15 years or something like that?
Yeah.
And I kind of really latched onto it because I liked the idea of creating a business where I could teach like my skills to other people and kind of work alongside them, and we could do it together. And it was another option for people that were new to the industry or maybe looking to leverage some of the resources of a team. We've had agents that have retired from real estate from our team. Like they were experienced enough that they stuck, with us through their career, and so it's exciting to be able to have a business that kind of welcomes people of all experience levels. But yeah, absolutely. I think there's plenty of ways to get into real estate, dual career, individual agent, start your own team. But yeah, certainly joining a team is worth looking at and it's a good option for a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't think it's just for the new people. Just I could relate to it as a newer person.
Yeah.
Because I think teams. My son, who's 31 now, he went to IU, and he kind of taught me this because he got into business fraternity.
Okay.
And in the business fraternity, they had mentors. And so when you got in the business fraternity, kind of was like me if I came to work for you. Okay, I come in, you teach me.
Yep.
Right? And then after a year or two, then you become a mentor for others. And so it helps everybody. Now, of course, at IU, you move on because you graduate, but you don't have to. And the camaraderie that you have with those people, the relationship that you get, it's such a valuable piece that I believe. I didn't always believe this, okay, but as I've gotten older, maybe I'll say wiser just because it sounds good to me.
Yeah,
it makes me feel better. Money is important, but it's not everything.
Right.
And culture and enjoying who you're working with and where you're working and having fun at work, in my opinion, is much more important.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You feel that same way?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm guessing you have a really good environment.
We try, yeah. We try to, I think we do. We build a culture that, like we bring people into that we think are going to be a good fit, and we really try to promote that. I think our clients see it, and yeah, like you said, I mean, professionally we're in this, to bring in an income, but that's not by any means the only thing, and it's certainly not many times the main thing. We want to be working alongside people that we're going to enjoy, yeah, and we see them grow. So
Yeah, I don't think I don't think you can't discount money. However, I have worked places where I made great money, but I hated it.
Right.
Okay, I loved it at first, but then the culture changed.
Yeah.
And it was no longer any fun. I hated every day going into work. And I'm one of those people, I tend to be way too loyal, so I stick it out way too long.
Yeah.
And when you finally leave, it's like, okay, I should have done this. Either you have to help them change their culture back to what it was, or you have to leave. You don't fit anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I just think the money's important, but if you're unhappy, it's not worth the money, because there's plenty of great places to work, and there's plenty of great people to work with like yourself. That why would you sit there and suffer like I did? I'm not. Don't do as I did. Do as I say.
Right.
Because I was wrong. You know,
Yeah.
It was a bad thing to do. But if anybody is listening, and somebody wants to buy a home, sell a home, maybe somebody is looking to come on a team, maybe get into real estate, what is the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, well, appreciate you asking. Phone number, put it out there, 317-225-5507. Can call or text. Also, email chris@kwtips.com. Or they could visit our website, which we would love for you to come check out, theindypropertysource.com. And we're on all the normal social medias.
Yeah, all over, right?
We try to be.
Yeah. theindypropertysource.com.
Right.
The Indy Property Source. Okay, that's easy.
Yeah.
Except for I'll misspell source. I'll try to put an S in it every single time where the C's goes. I don't know why, but that's what I do. So
I don't know where that'll
do that.
take you.
Yeah, that won't take you to you, will it? I know you almost want to buy sites. You want to buy all the names of every misspelling somebody can do, but you can't do that. That's just not possible. And to get a hold of Ian or I, go to hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com, or you can give us a call at 463. I even wrote it over there because it's a new number. I can't remember. 463-223-9592. 463-223-9592. I got a different number because you can text that number or call the number.
That helps.
It used to be just call. So you can text or call that number. So let's get back to real estate. I want to talk about the sellers, but I'm trying to decide. You tell me, what do you think? Should we talk about sellers and then talk about, which is kind of both buyers and sellers, the new law change, or should we just go talk about the law change first?
Yeah, we can talk about that for people that maybe don't know.
Okay. Tell us, and it's NAR made an agreement after the big lawsuits, and it's really how commissions are paid. Mm-hmm. Which I'll just give my 2 cents here. Sure. I don't think it really changed anything. I think that the prices already had the commissions built in, right? Every seller I ever talked to said, they looked at their net. They knew what they were going to net. And the appraiser appraised the property based on all those costs being in it, right? So I think it's one of those things that we have to adjust to. And it definitely have to change how we talk and things like that. But it's not necessarily that big a deal. But what do you think, and how do you think it's going to affect everything, and how are you going to deal with it?
Yeah, no, those are good questions. So for, like you said, people that may not have seen it or been aware, the kind of the structure of a transaction has changing. I think ultimately the goal of all of this is, through the DOJ and regulations, would be that the buyers, the consumer in real estate, so the buyer knows what they're paying their agent, and that they realize that could be negotiable. And so having, and maybe we'll talk through some of this, how we do it, but being transparent. So as an agent, telling them this is what it would look like to work with me. Just as you would with a lawyer or a dentist, you talk to them and get a feel for how you would work with them. And then the seller, we've kind of always done that. We said, like you mentioned, being transparent. Here's what a net sheet would look like. So here's what we think it will sell for. Here's all of the costs estimated to sell at that price. And then this would be based on your mortgage balance, if you have one, here would be your net proceeds. Well, we're going to do something similar to that with a buyer. So that's kind of what it has come down to. So the way that it has been is that a seller would pay X amount percentage in commissions, and that would get the list agent would get what they've negotiated with the seller, and the buyer would get what's been already predetermined by the seller. So now they get a say in that up front when they are meeting with their agent, so that they know what that cost is going to be. And then once an offer is made, the negotiations take place on whether there'll be credit for that from the seller. But it's going to be a little bit more transparent. It's also going to require us as agents to explain more.
Right.
And of course, all the paperwork changes and everything like that. But ultimately, you're right. I think unless things continue to change in a different direction, I think the way that real estate works will be similar as it was before. So.
I actually think it's a good thing. It's funny because until about 2 minutes ago when you were talking, I didn't necessarily think that. But all of a sudden you said something. I don't remember even what it was.
I changed your mind just then?
You didn't. You opened my mind.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
You opened my mind, and the fact that it's a good thing because now the seller and the buyer truly understand, and they're much and really, I guess what I really think is the selling agent and the buying agent and the buyer is going to know what the agent actually does. I think a selling agent, the seller knows what their agent does. I don't think most of what a selling agent does is a mystery.
Right.
Right. I think in your presentation you go over what you do. Right.
Yep.
And you tell them. But I think for a buyer, I don't think they realize all the things that you do to get to the point. Because I even had an agent come in here one day. He's laughing. He goes, "Yeah, I was getting coffee, and in front of me, I heard these two guys talking. They were talking about real estate agents, and all they are is glorified door openers." And that is, I don't know how much farther from the truth you can get, right? So couldn't this be a good thing? Because now you're going to explain it, and you're going to actually show them. Because really what you're going to have to do as an agent, I think, is you're going to have to show them why you're worth the money.
Yeah.
What is your value here in the transaction? And I know it's there. You just the agents are going to have to be able to show it.
Yeah, so for us, it's something that we've been doing for years. Is we will meet with a buyer, go through a consultation, explain what we do, and then essentially how we get paid. And, not till it closes, but what that looks like. So for us, that hasn't really changed a whole lot. For the industry as a whole, it will. More agents, all agents will need to be doing that, and going over their value proposition, going over what that looks like up front, so that when they work with a client, they now have what's called a buyer's agency agreement to work with them. And I could see why consumers would have felt that way about being glorified door openers, is because sometimes as a real estate agent, you get a phone call, you say, "Hey, I want to see this house," with very few questions. That agent may go and open the door. So we've trained the consumers to think, "Hey, just call an agent and they'll come open the door for me." And then, but what else do they do? How do they get paid? Who's their loyalty to? All that kind of stuff. What's their fiduciary relationship with me? You don't really think about that. You just kind of want to see what the house looks like. So the way that the industry was, it really didn't. Those conversations didn't happen with the buyers as much and agents. Now we'll see that more.
Yeah, and I think that's why I think it can actually be a big benefit, because I think it's going to force. Obviously, there'll be some people who probably get out of the business, but you've been in the business for 20 years. How many changes have you seen in real estate?
Oh, yeah. It really, in the past few years, it's definitely been quickened, but it changes all the time.
Changes all the time.
Yeah.
And this is just another change.
It's just
right?
another change.
We just have to get used to it.
Yeah.
I think and you mentioned it. I think that the lenders have something to can benefit, can help the agents out in this. I was watching a video by the #1 real estate agent in the country. I think he's out of California, or of course, California, or that area. And he was talking, and he was being interviewed, and he said that you're going to have to, real estate agents have to strengthen their relationship with their lenders. That was one of the biggest things he talked about, because, and so for me, I'm excited by that, because I think that is going to mean that we work together in a much better and much more tight. Like, my plan is to really, if I can work with the agents very, very closely, I can really help them out. Like a buyer, we're going to talk about the buyer. A buyer, what is one of the first things a buyer needs to do?
Well, absolutely, talk to a lender.
Get a pre-approval,
get pre-approval,
right? Get pre-approved, right. So which is more valuable? A pre-qualification, a pre-approval that's been underwritten by the automated underwriting system, or an underwritten pre-approval?
Well, I would want an underwritten pre-approval.
Right.
Yeah.
How many of those do you get?
You don't see that very much.
Yeah. And that's what I do. Okay.
Yeah.
But here's this is where I run into, and this is why I'm excited about it. Without the agents backing me on it.
Yeah.
So if you were sending me somebody, I need you to say, we really need to go. I know it takes a little bit more work, right? Because it doesn't really take any more work. It just takes it sooner, right? I got to get all the documentation to get a full underwrite.
Yep.
So we get a full underwrite. Now you go out and you make an offer with a fully underwritten. I've had people with fully underwritten offers, and a couple other things that I do, beat out cash buyers. Okay, because it's a fully underwritten offer. Meaning, what does fully underwritten mean? It means we have to have an appraisal. Maybe if we don't get an appraisal waiver, we have to have a purchase agreement we can accept, and the title has to be okay. And then you're going to close. So when you have a cash buyer, you still got to have title okay, right? So that didn't change.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to have an appraisal. So people, they look at them a lot like a cash buyer, but most people who are buying cash, or a lot of people buying cash, they tend to offer, because I'm paying cash, I should get a better deal.
Right. Discount.
Right? Yeah. So you can beat them out by offering more and having a fully underwritten. Would you see that if you're the listing agent and you got that? Would you see that as an advantage?
Yeah.
Fully underwritten.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I would personally look at those details on a pre-approval. I'll see who it's from, what the company is, but also what steps or conditions might be left if it's been underwritten, or if it is a pre-qualification. All of those things do factor into how I then translate that to the seller. If we have multiple offers. So
yeah, you have 10 offers. From what I've been told, if you have 10 offers, the first thing you do is you eliminate. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's what agents have told me. The first thing they do is they go through them and
what are the ones that are easy to cancel? Yeah,
okay. You have 10 offers. You got one that's contingent. It's going to go away, right? Most likely, unless the agent's going to present it, because they know they're going to do that. But
right.
Most likely the buyer's going to go, I don't want to, or the seller's going to go, I don't want a contingency,
Yep.
right? I got 9 other offers that aren't contingent. So, and then they eliminate. My son just sold his house up in Chicago.
Okay.
And he eliminated based on the type of financing, and it's awful because this isn't his, but you take a VA offer, right? You want to take care of the VA. The veterans deserve it, but you get a VA offer and you get a conventional offer, and it's a difficult one to take, because if there's an appraisal issue or anything else, you're done.
It's just the reality of it.
Yeah. VA needs to work on that. I think. Do you think this commission thing could be a big deal? I mean, VA is going to have to do that because they're 100% financed. If they don't pay that, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, it would ultimately. It would seem that would hurt the buyers the most, because then they're forced to buy a home in a lesser price point, or wait longer to buy, or maybe not even have any kind of representation at all. So yeah, seems like it would hurt the buyer.
Yeah, to me, it seems like it's going to really hurt the buyer. And I know we don't know how it's all going to pan out, but I think VA will change. I think FHA will change, because the two areas that are the struggle are the low down, or the real area that's the struggle is any low down payment program is hard, because I've put together things called appraisal gaps and commission gaps, and how we can handle those, right, so that people understand.
Right. And
I put together the numbers on it, so that actually this is part of what I give to my agents when they go to a listing. Here's how we can do this. And when a buyer's agent, here's how we can do this, so that people know what to do, right, to help you on your presentations. So let's get more into the buyer, because I think we've talked about the commission, although we maybe not. So when you're talking to a buyer, and you said you do a buyer presentation just like you would with a seller, what's different about it? What do you cover for a buyer?
I mean, it is different because it's a different side of the transaction. Ultimately, the process is, you end up going through a lot of the same steps. So some of it is the same. We do talk about who we are, what we stand for, what our role is as an agent with the buyer. So our fiduciary responsibility is to take care of them throughout the transaction, and what that looks like. And then generally the steps of the transaction are the same, but for viewing it from the buyer side, it's different. So we go through what that looks like versus, being on the seller side. And then we really like to set up expectations. So depending on what's going on in the market or just in general, we like to talk through expectations. So preparing them for what might come up on an inspection, or given their loan type or their price point, what might be some things that we run into, things like that.
Yeah, that's as you were talking, I wrote down, because I love the answer, which is in my mind. I'm going to change the question to, what should a buyer expect?
Oh yeah,
because really that's what we're talking about. What should a buyer expect? And that's how you, as a real estate agent, that's what you kind of have to think. Okay, what should a buyer expect? What are all the things a buyer should expect? And then how do I do that? What's my process? And then how do I present that, right? Mm-hmm. And that, to me, that's kind of how it is. So let's get on more, like, for you and your team, what do you specialize in, or maybe multiple things? What areas, what does that look like?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So I grew up South Side and live on a different side of town now. And
Southsiders can't even say they live what side, the other side of town.
Yeah, right. Get out of there.
I'm kidding. No.
So I end up, and I do some work. Part of what we do, what our business does, is we do some work with corporate sellers. So that would be like foreclosure type work, or maybe even homes that used to be rentals that they're selling. And that kind of takes us all over Central Indiana. Okay. So I hire agents and staff that helps us to be able to cover a wider territory. So to answer your question, I guess Central Indiana, but I mean Indianapolis and the surrounding counties, we're pretty well versed in covering that. And then, what was the other part of that question?
Well, I was just looking for, like, what areas you specialize in, what type of do you have a specialty in product?
What we do, yeah.
Yeah.
Have done a lot of new construction, especially in the past few years. We do residential, kind of the single family bread and butter, but I've done a lot of multifamily over the years. Smaller apartments, done a little bit of commercial and land. So we put together more complex deals, but a lot of it ends up being residential. It can be homes that are fixer-uppers, complete rehabs, so working with an investor, all the way up to move-in ready, owner-occupant, all different price levels. So we, I don't know, kind of gives you maybe a spectrum of what we do. So.
Yeah. Basically, you're well versed in everything, and you have a big enough team that there's probably somebody calls you for anything. You have somebody on your team that knows that. right? So if you don't do it, you got somebody who does. Either you can work with to help you, or that's again, I think that's one of the big benefits of having not only a team but having a group like Keller Williams that you're working inside, which has, I don't know how many agents you have total, but there's a lot of them. Keller Williams is big. Yeah. So I want to comment also. The one thing I think about Indianapolis, which is maybe different than a lot of cities, is there's really, like, the north side. I love the north side, but I also love the west side. Brownsburg, Avon, that whole area is beautiful. I have friends that live out there. It's a place I love. Greenwood, I never realized how nice Greenwood and is it Bartersville, the next one down, all that area, how beautiful it is if you go down in that area. I used to work for a builder I worked for several builders, but when they had properties down in that area, and it's like, wow, this is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think Indianapolis is pretty much that way. Most areas, right? It's a good area to be in, and as far as the state, most of the state I've been in, we were up in Valparaiso. And Valparaiso, what a great little town. I mean, it's just beautiful. So anyway, I think our areas, we're fortunate that we have just really great areas.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So how long does it normally take, and I know it might be different in this market, for somebody to purchase a home? But what should somebody expect?
From the beginning of the process?
From the beginning, when they first call you.
So we usually try to find out what their timetable is. Do they have a lease that's ending and things like that? But we'll generally say, it can be a couple months to up to a year, maybe even longer, depending on if we're looking for a unicorn situation or not. But it's generally going to take at least a couple months because they've got some steps to take up front when we meet. Usually it's going to involve talking to a lender, getting some documents together, figuring out our criteria and how we're going to work together, and then we have to go out and look at the homes. And it's going to take, well, it doesn't always take, but it can take some time to find the right home, the right match. Sometimes the criteria changes, so we might start looking in one area and then migrate to another or a different price point. So getting out and seeing the homes is good. I always call it the discovery period because then you're out seeing it, and the buyers get to see what they can get for a certain price point, and then that's when things change. But once you go under contract, so that would mean submit an offer, negotiate it, and we get it accepted, then it's going to be about 30 to 45 days until it closes. And barring any unexpected fallout with the deal, that's when they would move in. So
the reason I ask that question is because I get people asking me that all the time because they want to know, okay, when should I do this? When we do a pre-approval, when we run credit, really it's credit. When we run credit, it's good for 120 days. And if you don't close on a house in that 120 days, then we have to rerun credit again. Not necessarily for the pre-approval, but definitely when you find a house, because we want to close on the new credit, right? Because we have to know what we got. We don't want to do it at the end, right before you're ready to close and find out something changed, right? So you got to have the newest credit that you can. But it's because so I always tell people, well, we need 120 days, but in this market sometimes, in any markets, it can take much longer than 120 days because there's not enough houses. You can't find the right house. I mean, it can be a longer process. Am I wrong there?
No, you're totally right. Actually, it made me think. When we talk to people that are maybe renting and they decide to renew, for another year, and then we say, okay, well, we'll probably reach out in 3 to 6 months. And for a tenant, that might seem like, oh, well, I just told you I'm renewing my lease. Don't call me again. No. But the reason would be is for a tenant, you probably need at least 6 months leeway time to start that process again, so we can schedule a time to meet, talk to a lender, figure out what the lease ending of the lease looks like on that end, and then getting the search started up without feeling rushed, because in your mind, if you're thinking, oh, I got 30 days, it takes me 30 days to buy a house. Well, that's from everything else to writing an offer to close. And if you're running up on the end of a lease, you really need to give yourself more time. And if you're thinking about building, you need to give yourself a lot more time, because if you're going to build, it could be 6 to 9 months from starting that process to the end. So,
yeah, building is a lot longer process. So looking at, I guess this matters for building too. But so if I'm a buyer and you're showing me houses, how do you determine whether you think the house that we're looking at is well priced, poorly priced? How do you know? How do you make that decision?
Well, with a lot of the new technology, buyers are more informed now than they were in the past, just because they can kind of pull some of that data. But ultimately, I feel like that's our job as an agent, is before our clients write an offer on a home, is to go over with them what we think the actual market value is, where is it priced appropriately? Is it towards the top end of the neighborhood? Maybe it's more of a discount because of the condition that it's in. We definitely like to go over that before we write an offer rather than after it's accepted, maybe. But yeah, I think that's an important part of it.
Okay, so somebody has their offer accepted, they're going through the process, you're getting ready to close. Do you do a final walkthrough, and if so, why?
Yeah. I always like to try to do a final walkthrough, and I like to do it as close to closing as possible. So many times we will do it the same day. So we'll meet at the house right before we go to the title company. We'll do our final walkthrough. We try to go through it up front, but it's usually like people get excited once they get an offer accepted, and then they think, maybe why are we doing this? But I want them to see the home as close to the closing as they can. And we just, it's a quick walkthrough, but it's, making sure a tree didn't fall on the house, somebody didn't drive a car into the garage door while they were moving out, or maybe the basement flooded, the night before. All of those things can happen, and I have actually had probably all of those happen, but you just never know. So yeah. It's a safeguard for the client.
Yeah. I think it's critical.
Yeah.
As I was 11 years in new home sales. We always did walkthroughs, right?
Yeah.
But I've had so many agents in, and the stories, they go to do a walkthrough and the people haven't moved out yet.
That's happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the one they went to do the walkthrough, and somebody had broken in that night. It was a vacant house, and they took all the copper out of the house. I mean, there's just things that can happen that you don't want to close on it.
No.
Not knowing. So you definitely want to go through the house.
Yeah.
Right before, I would think. So now they've closed. So how do you keep in touch with them? What's your process for keeping in touch with somebody and keeping them educated on what's going on in the markets and that type of thing?
Yeah, we like to stay in touch with our clients. So usually what we'll do is kind of an immediate follow-up. Just if they had a good experience, we'll ask for them to share that as a review online, to be because it's important for other consumers to see that. But we also like just to see how maybe the move went, tying up loose ends. A lot of times we will refer vendors to our clients, so that we look at ourselves as a resource throughout the process. So not just when it closes, but even afterwards. Maybe need some help landscaping or painting. We try to connect them with trusted vendors that we use. And, I don't know, a month or two after closing, we'll do a follow-up to remind them about the homestead exemption, that they've gotten it filed if it's an owner occupant. And then just throughout, we'll put them into our system to where we can communicate updates with the markets and maybe different things that we've got going on in our business and events and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you want to keep in touch with them, and there's a lot of really important things you can communicate to them.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good. So do you do any of the client appreciation events?
Well, yeah, we have done those. Those are fun because you get a chance to connect with people on a more of a social setting, and so we've done those. And giving away stuff at those is always fun. So yeah, that's an important part of keeping our name out there.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think it's nice. The clients they actually get to meet each other, right? Because how else would they ever? And you get to see, one of the things about being in mortgages is that, we never see the house, all right? And we really don't see, many times I never actually put eyes on a customer. It's one of the things I like to do is I prefer Zoom calls over phone calls.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Because there's a couple of reasons. Number one, I can record the call. So if I'm talking to you about something, right, and your spouse can't be there, I can record the call, and then I can send the call. Now they can see what we talked about, right? So you can keep everybody informed, like you were talking. And so it's like, that's my preferred way to do everything is to do it so I can record it so that everybody knows what is going on.
Yeah.
And the client events, out of my wheelhouse. It's one of the reasons I asked that question, because I'm trying to get comfortable with it. It's just out of my wheelhouse. It's not a comfort level for me to have to do and to plan. So
it's a lot goes into it. You almost need to have somebody that's had experience with event planning. I would say, like, with the hectic times of how real estate's been the past few years and all that we had to deal with, like working remotely and things like that, like some of those events went kind of to the wayside. So it's something that we're having to look at too, is getting back into it.
Yeah, during COVID, you couldn't do them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do virtual events, but yeah,
those are fun.
Yeah, my son during COVID, he owns it's a tour company.
Okay.
Where they take people on nature tours, really bird tours all over the world, and that shut down. So I said, Rob, you need to do trivia nights. So once a month they did trivia nights to keep everybody involved, and it really worked, because now they're as busy as can be.
Oh, cool.
Because it kept everybody, but for a year or two, nobody was traveling. Nobody wanted to travel. Nobody could travel, right?
Yeah.
So it was tough. But if there is anybody listening, whether it's somebody looking to become a real estate agent, looking to be on a team, a buyer, a seller, it sounds like residential, commercial, anything with their real estate needs, and they need a great agent, they need to talk to you, Chris Price. What is the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Call me, text 317-225-5507, email Chris at kwtips.com, or theindypropertysource.com, which is our website, which we think you'll love. So please visit it.
theindypropertysource.com.
Yep.
The .com everybody will get.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't have to say the www anymore.
No, I know. Isn't that great? Or the
HTTP.
Just indypropertysource.com.
Yep.
Perfect. And to get a hold of Ian or I, go to hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. Or you can, I better put that on the screen. Or you can give me a call at 463. I probably should put it on me. 463-223-9592. I'm new to this. I apologize. I'm new to the Ian's not here. He's supposed to be running this thing for me. But again, 463-223-9592. You can call or text that number. And Chris, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're a fantastic agent. You have tremendous knowledge, and it's a pleasure to have you on. I really do appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, you guys do a great job with the podcast and with mortgages as well.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Branch NMLS number 33041. Rick Ripma's NMLS number 664589. Ian Arnold's NMLS number is 1995469. Equal housing opportunity. Some restrictions apply.